He took down Al Capone. He became a legend. Then he met a killer who destroyed him completely. Eliot Ness arrived in Cleveland in 1935 as safety director, riding the fame of his untouchables. He was the man who never lost. But somewhere in the dark ravines of Kingsbury Run, something was waiting for him. Before we go further, hit like and subscribe to Midnight Faceless Crimes for more stories like this one. Beginning in 1934, a killer began leaving headless, dismembered bodies along the railroad gullies of Cleveland's East Side. At least 12 victims. Most were never even identified. The press called him the Mad Butcher. Ness threw everything at the case. Informants, surveillance. He even had a prime suspect. But nothing stuck. Then in 1938, in a move that shocked the city, he ordered a massive raid that burned down the shantytown where many victims had lived. He called it a strategy. Critics called it desperation. The killings stopped. The killer was never caught. Eliot Ness never spoke much about Cleveland after that. Some losses are too heavy to carry out loud.
In November 1970, a burned body was found in Norway. She was hidden deep within the remote, cold Isdalen Valley. Her fingerprints and every clothing label were deliberately removed beforehand. Police found false passports hidden nearby under several invented identities. Coded notes revealed a hidden, carefully guarded, and dangerous double life. Hotel clerks recalled a mysterious woman constantly using shifting false names. Her tradecraft resembled espionage training manuals. Every promising lead simply vanished into bureaucratic silence and official denial. Decades passed. Her true identity stayed unknown. In 2016, scientists finally attempted a detailed facial reconstruction. New DNA testing narrowed her possible origin across Europe. Still, no name or grieving family member ever emerged. Investigators now call this vanished identity itself the mystery. How does a person vanish this completely from recorded history? The Isdal woman remains Norway's most haunting unsolved case.
Did you know a killer once called a grieving family for 4 years just to remind them he was still out there? Dorothy Scott was a single mother living in California when the call started in 1980. A man's voice, whispering that he loved her, that she belonged to him. She told police. Nobody could stop what was coming. One night in May, Dorothy drove a sick coworker to the hospital. She went to get her car. She never came back. Then the calls started again, but this time to her parents. The same voice, describing what he had done to her, mocking detectives by name, calling himself her owner. For 4 years, her family picked up the phone not knowing what they would hear. Her remains were finally found in 1984, 4 years after she vanished. The caller is believed to have died before he could ever be charged. No arrest, no name, no closure. He did not just take Dorothy. He made her family live through it over and over again. Follow for more cases like this one. Did you know the world's first identified serial killer was not Jack the Ripper? 4 years before the Ripper terrorized London, something far worse was already happening in Austin, Texas. Between 1884 and 1885, at least 8 people were murdered with an axe. Most victims were black servant women, attacked in their beds in the middle of the night. The city was terrified. Investigators had nothing. A young writer living in Austin at the time gave the killer a name, the Servant Girl Annihilator. That writer was O. Henry, who would later become one of America's most famous authors. The killer was never caught. But here is where it gets darker. Researchers studying the Austin murders noticed something striking. The wounds, the timing, the sudden stop. Then, 4 years later, the same pattern appeared in London, and the world called that killer Jack the Ripper. The Austin murders were more brutal, more prolific, and came first. But because of who the victims were, almost nobody remembers them. That is a choice history made, and it was the wrong one. Did you know a man spent 16 years bombing New York City, and the only person who could stop him never once visited a crime scene? From 1940 to 1956, someone called FP planted 33 bombs in movie theaters, phone booths, and public buildings across New York. He left taunting letters for police and newspapers, but no one could find him. Detectives were completely stuck. So they did something no one had tried before. They handed his letters to a psychiatrist named James Brussel. Brussel studied only the words, the handwriting, the grammar, the rage buried between the lines. Then he made a prediction. Middle-aged, heavy-set, paranoid, Slavic background, and when police found him, he would be wearing a buttoned, double-breasted suit. When officers arrested George Metesky in Connecticut, he came to the door in a bathrobe. Then he asked to get dressed. He walked back out in a perfectly buttoned, double-breasted suit. Every detail matched. The FBI took notice. Brussels' method became the foundation of criminal profiling. The man who tried hardest to stay invisible accidentally taught law enforcement how to find everyone. Did you know a killer once lived inside a farmhouse for days after murdering everyone inside it? In March of 1922, 6 people were found dead on a remote farm in Bavaria, Germany. The victims were the Gruber family and their farmhand. All of them had been killed with a pickaxe, but the bodies were not discovered for nearly a week. And that week is what makes this case truly terrifying. Someone had been living on that farm the entire time. The livestock had been fed. Food had been eaten. The killer slept in the house, surrounded by the people he had just slaughtered. Even stranger, days before the murders, footprints were found in the snow leading toward the farm. None led away. Whoever came to Hinterkaifeck never left, or at least, no one ever saw them go. The case was never solved. No arrest was ever made. And the question that haunts investigators to this day is not just who did it, it is why they stayed. Follow for more cases that will keep you up at night. Did you know a single pinhead killed one of the most dangerous journalists in the Cold War? September 1978. Georgy Markov was a Bulgarian dissident working for the BBC in London. He reported stories that embarrassed the communist regime back home. They wanted him gone. On a quiet afternoon, he stood waiting for a bus on Waterloo Bridge. Ordinary street, ordinary crowd. Then he felt a small sting on the back of his leg. A man with an umbrella muttered an apology and walked away. 3 days later, Markov was dead. Doctors found a tiny metal pellet buried in his skin, barely larger than a pinhead. Inside, it was ricin, one of the most lethal poisons on Earth. The umbrella had been secretly modified to fire it like a gun. The KGB engineered the whole thing. A superpower built a custom weapon just to silence one man telling the truth. And the person who actually pulled the trigger has never been officially named. Follow for more stories like this. Did you know a serial killer who outsmarted police for 30 years got caught because he asked one question he already knew the answer to? Dennis Rader murdered 10 people in and around Wichita, Kansas. He started in 1974 and kept killing for over 2 decades. He called himself BTK, bind, torture, kill. And somehow, he was never caught. He was a church president, a city compliance officer, a husband and father. He lived completely in the open. Then in 2004, after years of silence, he came back. He sent letters to news stations, taunting police, needing the attention. And then he asked a local station one specific question. Could a floppy disk be traced back to its sender? The station checked with investigators and broadcast the answer on the air. No, it cannot be traced. He sent the disk 3 weeks later. Detectives pulled the metadata from a single deleted file. It listed one name, Christ Lutheran Church. Rader was president there. He was arrested within days. 30 years of careful planning ended by the one thing he could never control, the need to be seen. Follow for more stories like this. Did you know the man who actually invented cinema vanished without a trace just days before he could prove it to the world? Louis Le Prince filmed moving pictures in 1888, years before Edison. He had the footage, he had the patent applications, and he had a demonstration planned in New York that would have changed everything. Then on September 16th, 1890, he boarded a train in Dijon, France. He never got off. No body was ever found, no luggage, no witnesses, no explanation. In the months that followed, Edison filed his own motion picture patents and walked away with credit for one of the greatest inventions in human history. Then Le Prince's son, Adolphe, testified against Edison in court. He was found dead shortly after. A gunshot wound ruled accidental. 2 people standing between Edison and history, both gone. The disappearance of Louis Le Prince was never seriously investigated as a murder. No one was ever charged. No motive was ever officially explored. But someone rewrote the story of cinema, and they were never caught. Follow for more cases history forgot to solve. Did you know a dead man on an Australian beach stumped the entire world for over 70 years? December 1st, 1948. A well-dressed man was found dead on Somerton Beach near Adelaide. No wallet, no identification. Every single clothing label had been carefully cut out. Cause of death? Unknown. No one reported him missing. No one came forward to claim him. But hidden inside a secret pocket in his trousers was a tiny scrap of paper. 2 words in Persian, torn from a rare book of poetry, Taman Shud. It means finished. The same book was later found with an encrypted message inside that no codebreaker could crack. Not then. Not for decades. In 2022, DNA analysis finally gave him a name and tied him to American intelligence circles during the height of the Cold War. And that is the part that keeps people up at night. Because if he really was a spy, then nobody made a single mistake. He was never meant to be found at all. Follow for more cases like this. Did you know 5 children vanished from a house fire and their bodies were never found? Christmas Eve, 1945. The Sauter family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia caught fire in the middle of the night. George and Jenny Sauter escaped with 4 of their children, but 5 others never made it out. No remains, no bones, nothing. George refused to believe they were dead. The phone lines had been cut before the fire started. His ladder was missing from the yard. The local fire chief waited weeks before searching the rubble, and the family's insurance agent had threatened George just months earlier, saying his house would burn down. For 30 years, George Sauter put up billboards. He hired private investigators. He never stopped looking. Then, in 1967, a photograph arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a picture of a young man who looked exactly like his son Louis would have looked at that age. George died in 1968 with no answers. The case has never been solved. What really happened to those 5 children?